Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something absolutely wild. We are going to completely tear down the Korean language, Hangul, and look at the actual gears and pulleys inside it. I'm going to show you that this alphabet isn't just some dusty philosophical artifact from hundreds of years ago. No way. It's actually a visceral, highly precise, biomechanical user interface. Seriously, it's a literal map of human anatomy.
To get started, do me a quick favor. Just put your hand on your throat right now. Or, just swallow. Have you ever actually asked yourself what that little punching bag hanging in the back of your mouth does when you speak? Well, it's called the uvula, and as we're about to see, it's basically the biological origin point of human spoken language.
Okay, let's shatter a major myth right out of the gate here. For centuries, the traditional view of Hangul's foundational vowels was totally tied to Confucian theory. People were taught that the basic dot vowel, called areya, represented heaven. But when we reverse engineer the alphabet anatomically, we get a completely different bioengineered reality. That dot, it isn't the sky. It's literally a drawing of your uvula, acting as a physical valve in your throat.
Think about it. This tiny little organ is a highly strategic valve. When you breathe, air just flows, right? But when you want to speak, your uvula rapidly snaps open and closed, controlling the pathway between your nasal and oral cavities. It's like an explosive switch that builds pressure to create consonants. Honestly, without this precise little anatomical valve controlling our airflow, our speech wouldn't even have structure. We'd just be making raw, unprocessed caveman grunts.
Now, it gets cooler because we can actually view these vowels as physical states of energy. It's kind of like a rubber band. The vertical line, which is pronounced E, represents the high-tension vertical stretch of your mouth. Picture the intense, high-energy wail of a crying baby. Then, on the flip side, you have the horizontal line, pronounced U, which is the relaxed, low-tension horizontal spread of your lips. It's that grounded, low-frequency sound, like a cow mooing. So these aren't just arbitrary lines drawn on a page. They're the physical, geometric tracks that your lips actually travel on. And this brilliantly illustrates a super commonly misunderstood concept, the empty circle symbol. People usually just think, oh, it's a placeholder, but it actually represents the vital, invisible flow of air. When it's at the start of a syllable, it maps the soft exhalation of air straight from your throat, but using a slight variation of it at the end of a syllable, and it redirects that exact same airflow up to resonate inside your nasal cavity. The symbol itself is literally a visual blueprint of your throat's empty space, just waiting to be filled with air.
Section 1. Consonants and Survival Instincts.
So, to understand how our raw, physical survival mechanisms become language, I want you to imagine getting punched in the gut. Or maybe you're trying to deadlift a ridiculously heavy barbell. What does your body instinctively do? You hold your breath, right? You clench up. Your body violently blocks the airway to brace your core and protect your internal organs. And it's exactly this visceral reflex that gives us our next literal letter shape. In the medical world, this biological defense mechanism is called the Valsalva maneuver, and it's exactly what happens when you pronounce the Korean letter gyok, the G or K sound. Your thick tongue root retracts and violently blocks the soft palate to trap air and crank up that internal pressure. The very shape of the letter, the kyuk, is a literal side profile diagram of your tongue root bending backward to block your throat. It's the ultimate rigid defensive sound. Just like a diamond's rigid atomic structure helps it resist impact, this kyok shape acts as the structural foundation of your airway. It braces you against the physical and emotional shocks of the world. It's literally the sound of resistance and strength, hard-coded into our biology, and then just perfectly replicated in this written symbol. Section 2. The hidden breath. Okay, let's dive into a hidden secret of Hangul. It's a ghost letter that you use every single day in your mouth, but almost never actually write down. Let's look at the phonetic math of the Korean word tadza, which translates to a high-stakes gambler. When you say this word, your tongue goes through this complex, three-step martial arts routine. It's not just a smooth flow of air, not at all. It involves friction, pushing against saliva, and a very specific, hidden, microscopic pause right in the middle that loads up the energy for the next sound. Now this symbol, the Yodin Hyut, is the secret behind that hidden micro-breath. The source text beautifully describes this as the ash of burned oxygen. It acts as an intense chemical catalyst, a tiny pressure cooker that pauses the airflow for just a millisecond, which then turns a soft, normal sound into an explosive double consonant right in the middle of a word.
You might not see it written out, but you absolutely feel it physically every single time you emphasize a sharp sound.
Section 3. The box of thought. Moving from raw physical reflexes into high-level human cognition, we get to the letter mium, or mium, which makes the M sound. Notice how it physically looks exactly like a closed box? Well, grammatically, it functions just like one too. It acts as a digital compiler that takes flowing abstract time and verbs and locks them down into solid nouns. For instance, in Korean, if you add this box shape to the end of the verb to dream, it completely traps the action and turns it into the noun a dream.
Think about a baby for a second. By tightly closing their soft lips to make that M sound, babies first capture the concept of mom. The source material notes that this letter is essentially the first net humans ever cast into the rough waves of reality to catch and own concepts. It brings order to all those chaotic, meaningless signals of the outside world, trapping them in a neat little box so our human brains can actually process them.
Section 4. Language as lossy compression.
So we've seen how language is this wild physical and biological miracle. But what happens when we take this incredible human framework and feed it to artificial intelligence? Well, to an AI, language itself is basically a form of lossy compression. Just like a JPEG image loses quality to save file size, spoken and written language squeezes infinite human emotions, biological contexts, and complex physical realities into one-dimensional text. This compression inherently strips away nuance, which, if you think about it, is exactly why we constantly misunderstand each other and run into logical errors.
But here's the crazy part. Those exact errors, gaps, and ambiguities, they're actually the secret sauce of humanity. This imperfect compression is literally what gives us poetry and literature. It leaves room for philosophical debate. And for artificial intelligence, these gaps create what's called probabilistic flexibility. It allows AI models to hallucinate beautiful, creative new ideas straight out of the very spaces where our definitions fail to be perfect.
I really want to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. We've seen how our meat, our muscles, our uvulas, and our tongue roots bioengineered the very alphabet we use to speak. So as AI learns to master our biological lossy compression, we really have to ask ourselves, is it simply processing data? Or is it, through the structure of our own language, taking the very first breaths of its own abstract self? It's an absolutely fascinating question and one we're all going to be watching unfold. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the things you use every single day, and I'll catch you next time.